The intricate and dramatic evolution of the English monarchy, 1066 to 1216. The history of the English monarchy from 1066 to 1216 is a compelling and complex narrative marked by dramatic events, profound transformations, and significant contributions to the development of English and European history. This period, stretching from the Norman Conquest to the end of King John's reign, witnessed the establishment of a centralized state, the evolution of legal and administrative systems, and the contentious interactions between the monarchy, the nobility, and the church. The era's events not only shaped the political landscape of England, but also laid the foundations for modern governance and constitutional principles, the Norman Conquest and the establishment of Norman rule. The Norman Conquest of England in 1066 was a pivotal event that altered the course of English history. Led by William the Conqueror, the Duke of Normandy, the invasion culminated in the decisive Battle of Hastings, where King Harold II, the last Anglo-Saxon king of England, was defeated and killed. This victory was not just a military triumph, but a transformative event that introduced a new ruling elite, brought about significant cultural changes, and reshaped the governance of England. William's claim to the English throne was based on a complex series of promises and alliances. According to Norman sources, Harold Godwinson, then the most powerful noble in England, had pledged to support William's succession to the throne. This oath, allegedly made under duress after Harold was shipwrecked and captured in Normandy, became a central justification for William's invasion. The Bayeux Tapestry, a contemporary embroidery commission to celebrate William's conquest, vividly depicts these events, including Harold's oath and subsequent coronation, which the Normans viewed as a betrayal. Upon securing the throne, William I, 1066 to 1087, undertook a comprehensive reorganization of English society. He introduced the feudal system, a hierarchical structure of land tenure and obligations that became the foundation of Norman rule. Under this system, all land was considered the property of the king, who granted estates to his Norman followers in exchange for military service. This reorganization not only secured William's control over the kingdom, but also marginalized the Anglo-Saxon elite, replacing them with Norman and other continental nobles. The introduction of the feudal system had profound implications for English society. It established a new social order, with the king at the apex, followed by tenants-in-chief, the great barons, lesser nobles, and peasants. This hierarchy was underpinned by a network of mutual obligations, including military service, taxes, and loyalty. The Domesday Book, commissioned by William in 1085 and completed in 1086, provides a detailed survey of landholdings and resources across England. This document not only served as a tax assessment tool, but also as a record of ownership, reflecting the comprehensive nature of William's governance and the extent of the Norman transformation. The Norman Conquest also had significant cultural and linguistic impacts. The Norman elite brought with them their language, customs, and administrative practices, which gradually merged with existing Anglo-Saxon traditions. The result was a unique Anglo-Norman culture that influenced the development of the English language, law, and governance. French became the language of the court and administration, while Latin continued to be used in church and legal documents. Over time, this linguistic duality contributed to the evolution of Middle English, a language that incorporated elements of both Old English and Norman French. William's reign was not without challenges. The Norman Conquest was met with resistance, particularly in the northern regions of England. The Harrying of the North, a brutal campaign conducted by William in 1069 to 1070, exemplified the ruthless measures he was willing to take to secure his rule. This campaign, which involved the systematic destruction of crops, livestock, and settlements, aimed to quell rebellion and assert Norman dominance. The consequences were devastating, with contemporary accounts describing widespread famine and desolation. The Domesday Book later recorded extensive areas in the north that were still uninhabited and valueless years after the campaign, underscoring its lasting impact. William's legacy extended beyond his death in 1087. His policies and reforms laid the groundwork for a centralized and bureaucratic state, characterized by a strong monarchy and a hierarchical social structure. However, his death also precipitated a succession crisis that revealed the inherent tensions within the Norman system of governance. The succession crisis and the reign of William Rufus. The death of William I in 1087 led to a division of his territories among his sons, setting the stage for a period of instability and rivalry. William's eldest son, Robert Curthose, inherited the Duchy of Normandy, while his second son, William Rufus, was designated as King of England. The youngest son, Henry, received a substantial monetary inheritance but was left without land. This division reflected the feudal tradition of partitioning lands among heirs, but also created competing centers of power that would lead to conflict. William II, known as William Rufus, 1087 to 1100, faced significant challenges in consolidating his authority. His reign was marked by efforts to strengthen royal control, particularly over the church and the nobility. Rufus's relationship with the church was particularly contentious. He sought to assert his authority over ecclesiastical appointments and revenues, leading to disputes with the church hierarchy. His appointment of Ranulph Flambard as Bishop of Durham, a close advisor and administrator, exemplified his approach of using church offices to reward loyal followers and secure political support. Rufus's reign was also characterized by military campaigns and conflicts, both within and beyond the kingdom. He sought to expand and secure his territories, including efforts to assert control over Normandy, where his brother Robert ruled. This rivalry culminated in a brief war, after which Rufus managed to gain control over parts of Normandy. However, his reign was cut short by his mysterious death in 1100 during a hunting expedition in the New Forest. While officially recorded as an accident, suspicions of foul play lingered, particularly given the immediate actions of his younger brother, Henry, who quickly moved to secure the throne. Henry I and the legal and administrative reforms. Henry I, 1100 to 1135, also known as Henry Beauclerc, ascended to the throne amid the uncertainties following William Rufus's death. Henry's reign is notable for his efforts to consolidate royal authority and implement significant legal and administrative reforms. Upon his accession, Henry issued the Charter of Liberties, a document that promised to rectify the abuses of Rufus's reign and restore good governance. This charter sought to address grievances related to the arbitrary exaction of taxes and feudal dues, signaling Henry's intention to rule in accordance with established norms and laws. One of Henry's most enduring contributions was the establishment of the Exchequer, a centralized financial institution responsible for managing royal revenues. The Exchequer system of accounting, which used a checkered cloth, exchequer board, to record and audit transactions, became a cornerstone of medieval English administration. This innovation allowed for more efficient tax collection and financial oversight, ensuring a steady flow of revenue to the crown. The term exchequer and the practice of using checks as financial instruments have their origins in this system. Henry's reign also saw significant developments in the English legal system. He expanded the jurisdiction of royal courts and introduced reforms that laid the foundations for the common law. The use of itinerant justices who traveled to different regions to hear cases helped standardize legal procedures and ensure consistent application of the law across the kingdom. This system of royal justice, which relied on juries to determine facts, represented an early form of trial by jury and contributed to the gradual unification of English law. The emphasis on legal consistency and the enforcement of royal justice helped stabilize the realm and reinforce the crown's authority. Henry's reign, however, was overshadowed by the issue of succession. The tragic death of his only legitimate son, William Audelin, in the White Ship disaster of 1120 left the question of succession unresolved. Henry sought to secure the succession of his daughter, Matilda, but faced significant opposition due to prevailing gender norms and political considerations. Matilda's marriage to Geoffrey Plantagenet, Count of Anjou, further complicated the situation, as it introduced new dynastic claims and alliances. The anarchy and the struggle for the crown. The death of Henry I in 1135, without a clear male heir, led to a period of civil war and instability known as the Anarchy. The succession crisis arose from competing claims to the throne, with Matilda asserting her right as Henry's designated heir and Stephen of Blois, Henry's nephew, seizing the crown with the support of key nobles and church leaders. Stephen's accession was based on his promise to uphold the laws and liberties of the realm, but it was also facilitated by the political and military backing he received, highlighting the role of power and influence in determining succession. The Anarchy, 1135 to 1153, was marked by widespread conflict, lawlessness, and shifting alliances. Matilda, supported by her half-brother Robert of Gloucester and other loyalists, launched a military campaign to assert her claim to the throne. Despite initial successes, including capturing Stephen at the Battle of Lincoln in 1141, Matilda struggled to maintain control. Her assertive and often uncompromising leadership style alienated potential allies and provoked resistance, particularly from the Londoners, who expelled her from the city. The protracted nature of the conflict and the devastation it caused had profound implications for the kingdom. The anarchy disrupted the administration of justice, weakened central authority, and led to widespread social and economic hardship. Chroniclers of the time, such as the author of the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, described the period as one of chaos and suffering, with castles occupied by wicked men who terrorized the countryside. The conflict's resolution came through the Treaty of Wallingford in 1153, brokered by key nobles who sought to restore stability. The treaty recognized Stephen as king for the remainder of his life, but designated Matilda's son, Henry, as his successor. This compromise ended the immediate hostilities and paved the way for the ascension of Henry II, marking the beginning of the Plantagenet Dynasty and a new phase in the history of the English monarchy. Henry II and the Plantagenet consolidation. Henry II, 1154 to 1189, the first Plantagenet king, inherited a kingdom in disarray but possessed the skills and resources to restore order and implement far-reaching reforms. His marriage to Eleanor of Aquitaine brought vast territories in France under his control, creating the Angevin Empire, which included England, parts of Ireland, and large portions of western France. This extensive dominion positioned Henry as one of the most powerful monarchs in Europe, although it also presented challenges in terms of governance and loyalty. Henry's reign was marked by significant legal and administrative innovations that laid the foundation for modern English governance. One of his most important contributions was the development of the common law, a body of legal principles that emerged from the decisions of royal courts. Henry's reforms expanded the jurisdiction of these courts, standardizing legal procedures and creating a unified legal system that applied across the kingdom. The use of juries to decide cases, a practice known as the assize, became a hallmark of English justice, ensuring that local customs and the king's law were integrated. Henry's legal reforms also addressed the relationship between the monarchy and the church, which had become a contentious issue during the anarchy. The Constitutions of Clarendon, 1164, were a set of legal codes that sought to delineate the rights and privileges of the church and the crown. These constitutions aimed to assert royal authority over ecclesiastical appointments and legal matters involving clergy, challenging the church's traditional autonomy. The conflict with Thomas Becket, the Archbishop of Canterbury, over these issues became one of the most dramatic episodes of Henry's reign. Becket, initially a close ally of Henry, became a staunch defender of church rights and privileges, opposing the king's attempts to control the church. The conflict escalated, leading to Becket's excommunication of several bishops who supported Henry and his subsequent murder by 4 of Henry's knights in 1170. Becket's death shocked Christendom and led to his canonization as a martyr. The incident forced Henry to reconcile with the church, undertake public penance, and make concessions that limited his control over ecclesiastical matters. Henry's reign was further complicated by familial conflicts and the ambitions of his sons, known collectively as the Devil's Brood. The king's efforts to secure the succession and manage the Angevin Empire were undermined by the rebellious actions of his sons, Henry the young king, Richard, Geoffrey, and John. The revolt of 1173 to 1174, led by his sons with the support of Eleanor of Aquitaine and various continental allies, highlighted the challenges of maintaining control over a vast and diverse empire. Despite suppressing the rebellion, the discord within the royal family persisted, ultimately contributing to the instability of the Angevin dominions. The reigns of Richard the Lionheart and John. Richard I, known as Richard the Lionheart, 1189 to 1199, is often celebrated for his chivalric ideals and military exploits, particularly during the Third Crusade. However, his reign was also characterized by absentee kingship and a focus on foreign campaigns, which left England in the hands of regents and strained the kingdom's resources. Richard's commitment to the Crusades and his rivalry with the formidable Muslim leader Saladin dominated his reign, reflecting the broader context of religious and territorial conflicts between Christendom and the Islamic world. Richard's absence from England, combined with the heavy taxation needed to fund his military campaigns, created economic pressures and discontent among the nobility. His capture and imprisonment by Duke Leopold of Austria in 1192 further exacerbated the kingdom's financial burdens, as a substantial ransom was demanded for his release. Richard's limited engagement with domestic governance and his focus on the Crusades ultimately limited his impact on the English legal and administrative systems. John, 1199 to 1216, Richard's younger brother, inherited a kingdom burdened with debt and political unrest. John's reign is often portrayed as one of misrule and conflict, marked by his strained relationships with the nobility, the church, and foreign powers. His loss of Normandy and other French territories early in his reign significantly weakened the Angevin Empire and diminished his prestige. The defeat at the Battle of Bouvines in 1214 was a particularly significant blow, as it effectively ended English hopes of reclaiming lost territories in France. John's domestic policies, particularly his fiscal measures, alienated many of his barons. His heavy taxation, arbitrary justice, and efforts to centralize royal authority led to widespread discontent. The imposition of scutage, a tax paid in lieu of military service, was particularly resented, as it placed a heavy financial burden on the barons without corresponding benefits. John's disputes with the church further exacerbated his unpopularity. His refusal to accept Stephen Langton as Archbishop of Canterbury led to his excommunication and the imposition of an interdict on England, which suspended religious services and sacraments. The culmination of these tensions was the Magna Carta, a document forced upon John by his rebellious barons in 1215. The Magna Carta sought to address grievances related to the king's arbitrary rule and establish principles for fair governance. Key provisions included the protection of church rights, the establishment of due process and trial by jury, and the requirement for the king to seek consent before levying taxes. While the Magna Carta was initially a practical response to immediate political pressures, it became a symbol of the principle that even the king was subject to the law. The aftermath of the Magna Carta saw continued conflict between John and his barons, leading to the First Barons' War. The barons, dissatisfied with John's adherence to the charter's terms, invited Prince Louis of France to claim the English throne. This intervention by a foreign prince underscored the fragility of John's rule and the deep divisions within the kingdom. John's death in 1216, amid the ongoing conflict, marked the end of his troubled reign and set the stage for the accession of his young son, Henry III. The legacy of the early English monarchy. The period from 1066 to 1216 was transformative for the English monarchy, establishing the foundations of a centralized state and shaping the development of English law and governance. The Norman Conquest and the subsequent reigns of William I and his successors introduced new administrative practices, legal frameworks, and social structures that fundamentally altered the nature of English rule. The introduction of the feudal system, the development of the common law, and the centralization of royal authority were key aspects of this transformation. The interactions between the monarchy, the church, and the nobility were central to the history of this period. The conflicts between kings and church leaders, exemplified by the disputes involving Thomas Becket and Stephen Langton, highlighted the struggle for supremacy between secular and ecclesiastical authorities. The Magna Carta, while initially a pragmatic response to immediate political pressures, became an enduring symbol of the principle that even the king is subject to the law. This document laid the groundwork for the development of constitutional governance in England, influencing legal and political thought for centuries to come. The Plantagenet Dynasty's rise also underscored the complexities of succession and the challenges of maintaining a vast empire. The internal conflicts among Henry II's sons, the rivalry between John and Prince Louis, and the ongoing disputes over French territories reflected the broader European context in which the English monarchy operated. The anarchy and the subsequent conflicts during John's reign revealed the fragility of the monarchy and the importance of stable and effective governance. In conclusion, the history of the English monarchy from 1066 to 1216 is a rich tapestry of power struggles, legal reforms, and evolving notions of kingship. It is a story of how foreign conquest, familial rivalry, and institutional developments shaped the English state. The legacy of this period, particularly the principles enshrined in the Magna Carta, continues to resonate in contemporary discussions about governance, law, and the balance of power. The English monarchy's evolution during these years laid the foundation for the development of a constitutional monarchy and the rule of law, principles that remain central to the British political system today. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like and comment. Also, please subscribe to Medieval Chronicles 1066 for more medieval history adventures. Stay curious.